with that, just questions, maybe, if you guys have questions?
I have a question for you. When you graduated, the internet was not, I mean, it was just getting started, social media was not a big deal, but clearly you have learned how to utilize social media and all that stuff. How'd that happen? Because the idea here is everything that you need to know, you're not going to get in school. You're going to continue to learn this stuff. So
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's so funny because when I left college, this shows you how old I am and how different I was, I guess, is I have a really strong group of friends from MSU, all communications majors, and we wanted to stay in contact. And so what we would do is we would write a letter and we'd stick it in an envelope, and then we'd send it to the next person's address, and they would put a letter in, and then the next address, and then we had this packet of information about what people were doing. I mean, is that crazy to think about now? Now it's like, send an email, please. But at the time, that's truly what we had. We thought we were really innovative, but we were doing that. And so I have had to learn it. I mean, my first job, I didn't have email. Can you imagine that? I didn't think I had a smartphone until, like, I was almost leaving Yellow the first time. So to learn that, I think there's a few things. First of all, never be afraid to ask a question. I mean, again, I'm such a huge believer in questions, you know, within reason, like not being annoying about questions, but because there are people that know. And honestly, some of you know probably more than I do about social media because you're more in that demographic. And so, you know, when I was at Rockerson, we were starting up social media. I actually pulled students in. And we had the students come in and almost be our advisory board for some of it. And then I went out and with my network of friends and colleagues, ask questions, work with them. I've set up several times where you just have coffee or tell me what you're doing, tell me how you're getting this done. And then of course, I read stuff all the time. So there's lots of information out there that you can find, but I really think learning from other people's personal experiences or asking questions, that's really how I learned it. Any other questions? Yeah.
What is the 39 stand?
It
Or
was
is it 93?
No, it's 39.
Okay.
It was my age. It was kind of this little thing I did where I was like, I'm 39 years old. By the time I'm done with being 39, we're going to do something that gets back to the 39. And so, yeah.
What year were you working at Rockhurst?
I was there from 2008 to 2011, I think.
I was just curious.
Yeah, 2008 to 2011.
Angie, you talked about culture,
Yeah.
and we're talking about the one particular experience where when you went in, you knew it wasn't a good fit.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what are the qualities of a positive workplace culture where you did fit,
Mhm.
and what were some of the qualities that made the culture in that experience off?
Yeah, sure. And so I think the first thing I'll say to that is part of it is individual, right? There are several people at that other company that loved it, and it worked for them. But I'm really entrepreneurial. I like to be able to kind of blaze my own path. So if I walk into somewhere and it's pinning me in too much, I don't do very well. And so that was part of it. A lot of negativity. So for me, I'm like uber positive. So to be in a negative environment where I was kind of the only Susie Sunshine was a little bit hard for me, right? And the third thing I'm going to say is that I learned very quickly was I wasn't really on board, not to call them out, but with their ethics, how they had set up their business model was to me just wrong. And so, because honestly, what they said to me when I got there was, I just need you to, I billed out at $200 an hour, which is ridiculous. I am not worth $200 an hour, probably. But they said, we just need you to fill your time. The client really doesn't need you, but they want to keep their budget. The client doesn't ever want to lose their budget. So we just need to make sure you're billing this many hours, whether you work them or not, so that they don't lose their budget. And that didn't feel good to me, both from an ethical standpoint and from my brain is working. I mean, I want my brain to work all the time, and I didn't like just sitting there with nothing to do. So that to me was, so I think alignment with ethics, morals, vision for the company is huge. and then probably your individual style, because a lot of people really want, want that structure, right? So for them, that culture that is very structured and tells them exactly what to do would be perfect. For me, that didn't work. And that's one thing we're doing right now at YRC is really building a brand new culture, because it's been very control and command. You know, you work at a terminal, you come in every day, you do what I tell you to, and I don't really need your opinion because I'm going to tell you what to do. And that is, honestly, our workforce is aging out, right? So I think it's, I don't remember the numbers in the middle, but the upside is, I think there's 13% of our workforce is over 60, and 14% of our workforce is under like 35. With all the drivers, 30,000 drivers. Well, as that 13% gets bigger and bigger and bigger, they don't want to be told what to do. They want to be part of the culture and more empowered. And so we're having to really shift how we do things to keep up with the just way that people want to work now. So.
Yeah, I missed the beginning of your presentation. What exactly did you study in your career?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was a psychology major as an undergrad, and then I actually had, I always say, it was psych for me, a journalism minor for my mom, and a management minor for my dad, because I was trying to compromise with everybody. They really wanted me to be a lawyer, and that was my plan. And then I did an internship. Actually, it's what changed my mind. I did an internship and in psychology, but it had a real communications feel to it. And I decided that that's what I liked. I liked the communications part of it, and I had more of a strength for that than all the kind of science and the dryness that can become with psychology. And that's when I decided to switch and do communications for my master's. You have something, John?
Angie, you talk about this issue of good fit.
Mm-hmm.
I think students sometimes forget it's not just does the company want to hire you, which is what they're all about. It's whether or not you want to go to work for that company.
Yeah.
And you said going in, you just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for somebody when they're in the interviewing process? What kinds of questions, observations, what data should they be looking at to figure out, is this a good fit for me?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a good question. And I think first, it's probably some self-awareness, right? So for me, that's what it came down to was, what do I want? Because if you don't know what you want, then you don't know the right questions to ask. I think that's really important, is to take a little bit of time to inventory. Do I want to work in a company where they tell me what to do, or do I want to work in a company that I have more freedom? Do I want to work in a company that is really loosey-goosey? You know, like I sit in an open environment and it's really fun and crazy, but I work all the time. Or do I want to work in an environment that is 9 to 5 or 5:15, or is it 9 to 5 and it's more structured? And so I think that is one thing. It's just, how does it feel when I walk in, and what do I want? But to me, the good questions to ask are how they feel, what are the programs that they have for employees? And I think that tells you a lot. If a company is willing to invest in training, I think that's a really big thing, especially when you're starting out. Does a company invest in professional development and training, or do they not? I think that, even though that's a real specific tactic that they do, I think that really tells you if it's a learning environment or if it's a get in here and do your job environment. That's important. I think questions like, do you guys hang out after work? I mean, I know that sounds silly, but that's important. If people come in, they go and they say, ask this question. Do people come in and sit down and work all day and never talk to each other? Or do you guys do things as a department? Do you work together? How much do you collaborate? Those are questions I would definitely ask. How much can I contribute? Is it an open? One thing that you'll find is there's some companies that are very much hierarchy driven. I always ask this question. I'm not very hierarchy driven. So is it a hierarchy driven company, or is it more like kind of trendy matrix organization? So does it work across the organization? Do people work across, or do they work up and down? I think that's a really important question to ask, because that will tell you if how much you can contribute in the beginning. I think and then I think there's a little bit of that feel to it too. If you like your boss, that's really good. I mean, number one, you gotta like your boss, because your boss is really kind of setting the culture. But I have found kind of have to like the boss's boss too, because the boss is oftentimes not there. You know, like, they leave. So don't set it on just one person. Try to set it on how you feel and how people are interacting, and just be observant when you walk in. I should have totally known on the 2 less thing. I was just tired, and I just knew, I was like, I'm just gonna take it, because I can do that. I was running away from something versus to something, and so I think I would have known if I would have kind of closed. Yeah.
Quick question. You obviously have done very well and have taken advantage of different opportunities, and you've also worked in some pretty traditionally male-dominated areas. There's been a lot lately with Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In,
Yeah.
Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office, lots of different popular press books out there about gender at the workplace, and in particular, how women communicate at the workplace in ways that either help them get ahead or say,
Yeah.
no, I'm not ready for that, or don't pick me. Do you have any advice or anything you would say in particular?
Yeah, I have. I mean, this is kind of weird, but I actually like working in male-dominated places. I've always gravitated for some odd reason to those places, and I think it's because I'm kind of a guy. Like I kind of have those tendencies, you know, where I like to, I just do, and so I have always related really well with men. So that I think is one thing that has helped me. But I think the key, I think the true key is to respect. It's gaining respect, and I think helping in a male culture. I don't want people to walk in a room and say, "Oh, she's the girl in the room," or "She's the blonde with priest." I mean, I want them to walk out and say, "Angie always adds value. She always adds value every time she walks in a room." And what I have found, and honest to goodness, is the most family-friendly bosses and companies I've had have been men. And that it's because I earned their respect, and they knew that every time I walked in the room, I was going to add value. And so I have been very lucky in working in very male-dominated. I don't feel like I've been held back very much by that, because they've been very open, but I also haven't made a big deal of it, if that makes sense. So they know that when I walk in the room, it's just Angie, and I'm gonna push. I mean, I push, very direct. I push. I ask a lot of questions. I know my stuff. I've done my homework, and so because of that, I think it hasn't really hurt me. If that makes sense. But I've seen it. I've definitely seen it, and I think that if I was 10 years older, I think you would see it more. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've seen women that are maybe 10 years older than me that have probably done exactly what I've done, and they haven't held back. So I think it's just changing. I think it's really changing. Or maybe I just say really well. One thing about Lean In, though, I did read the Lean In book, and the one thing that did stand out to me that I thought was so great about what she said was that you shouldn't hold yourself back because of what you anticipate. And I think that is really smart. And I think that I probably did do a little bit of that, throughout. Like, oh, I don't want to do that because I'm going to have kids. And I worked part-time for a while. I took a few years and worked part-time when my kids were little. And I'm going to say even then, it really didn't hold. I mean, I would have had a different title. They would have offered me a different title, but they let me do the same work for lower title and lower salary, but flexibility, which was worth more to me at the time. So I do think that's good advice. Anything else?
How do you, when you're making like these transitions from like different positions, how do you go about the negotiation process? Like when so you have more kids, so you have to switch titles or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like,
More with salary, are you thinking salary and title, or more within a current job, how do you negotiate different
negotiate
responsibilities?
like a level up or salary?
Well,
For yours, it was more specific. 'Cause
Yeah.
Kids are,
yeah, research. I mean, to me, I'm a huge reader, and I love to dig into things. And so for me, I'll give you this example. It may not be exactly what you're asking for, but when I wanted to go part-time, I did tons of research, probably really annoying amounts of research on what people made, what people contributed, how people went part-time, the whole thing. And then what I have found is that people respond to options. And I think I put this up here, I didn't say it. And this is like my number one rule, and it's kind of a dumb rule, but it works, is the person that takes in a piece of paper to a meeting always owns the meeting. So like if you could just type up the agenda ahead of time, you always end up running the meeting. And it's a weird human nature type of thing, but it always works. So for me, when I would be negotiating things, I never went in and just had a discussion. I always went in and gave people options. So like when I wanted to go part-time, I gave them three, I probably did five, but like 3 to 5 options. Hey, here's how I could, here's one way I could work. There's another way I could work. Here's how much money you could give me in this initiative, this issue. Give me this much money plus benefits in this option. And I laid them all out, and I laid out the business benefit. So because I know numbers and statistics are our friends, I really was able to pull in what's the business impact if I do this. And the business impact was positive for them with any of the options they chose. But I think people, this is just me, I don't know if this is real or not, but if people feel like they have choices and they're part of the decision, then they feel better about it. So if I give them 3 choices, it's not like I'm saying, I want to go part-time and I want to go day, you need to figure out how to make that happen. But I'm saying, I've really thought through this. Here's 3 options. I think they all have business benefit, but you're the boss. If you know, it's what you feel most comfortable with would be great. And I've done that with salary, the title, with negotiating. Relationships are really important. So I think the more relationship connected you are with people, and the more people know that you're in it for the business, not for yourself, which of course we're all in it for ourselves, but you know, the more they know that you're keeping that in your mind, then I think the better people react to you. That's my opinion. Thanks.